Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you. You don't understand the power behind that song. That's a very fitting song for this time. Believe me, it is Black History Month. February is historically known and celebrated here in the United States, and it has caught on all around the world as Black History Month. It's a time when we celebrate the accomplishments, the achievements, the challenges of blacks in America and around the world. And so I would like to, on behalf of this church, take this opportunity to wish everyone a very happy Black History Month. May God bless you as you celebrate, and may God bless us as we continue to grow as a people, one nation under God. Amen. And so for today, we decided that we wanted to talk about the sermon, I Can't Come Down. Touched a little bit on it as we preached on the series from Nehemiah. And so I'm just going to finish that up on today as we get ready for the blessings of God. I do know that my time is already almost gone. For some of you, it's already expired. But be patient with me as we try to get through this word on today. Promise you I'll get you out of here in good time, in short order. So your Bibles are open to Isaiah chapter 58, the scripture passage that was just read, and we'll use that as the launching pad, and then we'll pick up on Nehemiah chapter 6 later on in the sermon. But verse 9 of Isaiah 58, it says, "Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity." Verse 10, "And if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. And the Lord," verse 11, "shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not." Verse 12, "And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in." Your heads are bowed, your eyes are closed. Father, breathe upon us the breath of life. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Like I said before, today is the first Sabbath in the nation's Black History Month celebration. And so today I will highlight three areas. I'll speak briefly about Nehemiah. I'll touch briefly on one of our pioneers, Martin Luther King, and then I will end ultimately by the greatest person to ever walk on this earth, Jesus Christ, our Lord. We have come a long way as a people, as a nation, but you would admit and agree with me that we still have much to do. As a people, we have endured hardships and struggles. We've been through a lot. As a church, we have seen vicissitudes, division, and corruption. But it has not corroded our will and our own determination to be sure to make it to the end. And so we've been through a lot, and we've seen a lot, and even though there's still yet a lot to do, we are comforted. Even as we had the officers' dedication today, we are comforted in knowing that whenever God wants to get a work done, He always lays hold of not just people, but He lays hold of willing people. Because you would understand that God loves to use those who are willing, not those who are skilled, but those who are willing. Because if you are skilled and not willing, then what you do makes no sense. But if you're willing and unskilled, then God could bless you and use you to truly minister. We realize, however, that even though God uses us as mankind, humanity, we have frailties. Humanity, we're made of clay. Humanity, we are fickle. Humanity, we are frail. As human beings, we get our feelings hurt. We sometimes get discouraged, and we live in periods of despondency. At times when it is dark and gloomy and when it is cold and we are alone, we get depressed and sad. We are human beings. But as human beings, however, sometimes the greatest threat to success is not the beginning or the end, but the greatest threat to success sometimes is when you are on the edge of success. How many of us understand, believe, accept, and know that the darkest hour is just before dawn? How many of us understand that sometimes when you're just about ready to give up, it may just be the moment when your breakthrough is coming? How many of us have lost out on opportunities because we gave up just too quickly? When you're on the edge of success, it sometimes becomes lonely and dreary and dark, and you become weak and despondent when you're on the edge of success. The edge of success agitates your adversaries. The edge of success infuriates those with inferiority complex. The edge of success highlights the high-minded haters. The edge of success tests your intestinal fortitude. The edge of success stretches your strength. The height of success, however, reveals your depth of faith. And this sermon will show how important it is to stay focused on the goal and not the glory. There are many times as individuals we look at the glory and we want the glory, but we don't want to do that which it takes to get the glory. You know, as young people sometimes, I remember as a young man growing up, I'm still young, not yet old, but I remember as a younger man growing up that there were things that I wanted in life. I wanted the nice car. Yes? I wanted the pretty girlfriend. I got a beautiful wife. I still don't have the pretty car yet, but I got a beautiful wife. I wanted all those things that glitter. I used to turn on the television and I saw all these entertainers with these nice flashy homes and have everything that they needed. And I used to always say, one day I'd like to have that. But I remember my mom sat me down one time and said, listen, be careful what you wish for because you don't know how they got it. Because some of those people slept in and with people that they never needed to get what they wanted. They have compromised and sold their souls because they wanted to achieve certain things. And that is why, young people, not all that glitters is gold. And so you must focus not on the glory, but focus on the goal. Because sometimes the glory will eclipse the goal. And if you aim for the glory, you may miss the goal. But whenever you achieve your goal, you'll always receive glory. Opposition, obstacles, and oppression will come, but don't come down from where God has placed you. We saw that as we did the series on Nehemiah. For those who weren't here, I'll refresh your memory. In the Old Testament, there are certain books that are books of prophecy. And there are others that are books of history. The book of Nehemiah is the last of the books of chronological history of the Old Testament. For those who don't know, Nehemiah was a Hebrew in Persia when the word reached him that the temple in Jerusalem was being reconstructed. As he was a captive in a strange land, it brought back to my memory the song that David sung when he said, "How can I sing the Lord's song in a strange land?" When he sat by the rivers of Babylon and he saw all the challenges, and he renewed in his mind and reminisced on all the past happenings and how great things were and how good God was to him where he's from. But yet he was a stranger in a strange land. Nehemiah grew anxious. As he looked at his city of Jerusalem, he realized that there was no wall to protect the city. And when there's no wall to protect the city, intruders should come in at any moment. And so as a cupbearer to Artaxerxes, the king of Persia, you know what a cupbearer is? He was the right hand. He was the one who would taste the wine before the king would drink of it to make sure it's not poisoned. He was the cupbearer. He received the word of the condition, not only of the land of Israel, but what really troubled him mostly was that the people, their countenance had fallen. They were sad and they were depressed. They were downtrodden. And so he petitioned God and he asked God, "God, give me an opportunity to go back and rebuild the wall that surrounded Jerusalem." When he prayed, God answered his prayer. Not only did he answer his prayer, but he used the enemy who was the one that held them captive. He used the enemy not only to give him permission to go, but to also to give him the means by which he will then be able to rebuild the wall. I don't know about you, but I've been in situations before when even those who considered themselves my enemy, God used them to be a blessing to me. And that is why I've always said to people, you don't fight your battles for yourself. Leave the battle to God. Let God fight. Stand still and see the salvation of God. And so God used Artaxerxes to give him the means and the permission in order to go back and build Jerusalem. When he went back to Jerusalem, he was made governor. And when he was made governor, he brought the people together. And we pick up the story in Nehemiah chapter 6. And I want you to turn there with me just in case you may not have read it before. But go to Nehemiah chapter 6. And I want to read from verse 1. The Bible says, while he was there building, as we set the context, he had brought the people together. And they, in 52 days, this is not prophetic days. This is literal days. In 52 days, the people together in unison, they built the wall. And when they built the wall, they had so much support for those who were dedicated as officers. They had so much support that they had to tell the people, listen, we have enough. We don't need any more. We don't need any more of your money. I told you before that is the dream that I have, that this church will get to the place where we have so much money in the treasury that we don't have to lift an offering one Sabbath. Somebody say amen. But Nehemiah chapter 6 and verse 1, the Bible says, now it came to pass when Sanballat, don't give your son that name, and Tobiah, don't give your son that name, and Geshem the Arabian, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had built the wall and that there was no breach left therein, though at the time I had not set up the doors upon the gates. Verse 2, that Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. And I sent messengers, verse 3, unto them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and come down to you? Yet they sent unto me 4 times after this sort, and I answered them after the same manner. Verse 5. Then sent Sanballat his servant unto me in like manner the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand. That open letter was a threat that he sent to Nehemiah. But Nehemiah says, I can't come down. You see, each one of us as Christians ought to have genuine compassion for others who have spiritual or physical hurts. We fail as a church when we don't care about the needs of our fellow members and our fellow members of the community. We fail when for us it's all about inside and nothing to do with the outside. We fail when we look for glory for ourselves and not look at ways to help those in the community. To feel compassion yet do nothing to help is unfounded biblically. At times we may have to give up our own comfort in order to minister properly to others. We must totally believe in a cause before we will give our time or money to it with the right heart. You know, it was Martin Luther King that says, if you don't have a cause to die for, you don't have a reason to live. We must totally believe in a cause before we will give our time or money to it with the right heart. When we allow God to minister through us, even unbelievers know that it is God that is working. In spite of opposition and accusations, the wall was built and the enemies were silenced. I want you to notice something in Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. Number 1, while Nehemiah was on the wall, the enemy conspired to overthrow. And by the way, it was so challenging. It was such a war zone. It was so complicated that while they were on the wall working, one hand they held their sword and another hand they used to build. Because at any time the enemy could attack. And that is why we as a people must always be on the alert. Always be on guard, because you never know when the enemy will attack. As a matter of fact, just because you're on the wall and you're on the mountaintop and you are above other people, it doesn't mean that you're safe. Nehemiah was doing a great work. And by the way, just so you understand, the greater the work that you do is the greater the threat to your life. The greater your responsibility is the greater the devil will attack. Always remember that the greater your responsibility is the greater the expectations. In Nehemiah chapter 6, verses 1 and down, the Bible says, the enemy conspired to overthrow. And I want you to notice something. The enemy targeted the leader. And that's why it's so important for you. And as we had officers' dedication, it's so important for you to pray for your pastor and to pray for the leaders, because the enemy will target them first. Why? Because if you can cut off the head, chances are you can control the body. Are you with me, somebody? Lightning strikes the tallest building. And so it always appears to me strange that throughout the Bible, as soon as you achieve something spiritually for God, you're attacked by the devil. You would remember in our Sabbath school lesson this week, you'd remember that Jesus, after he fasted for 40 days, it's at that time he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, and that's when the devil attacked him. You remember that Elijah, after he killed 850 false prophets, a woman sent him a message and he ran for his life. The greater your accomplishments is the greater the threat to the enemy and the more he chooses to attack. It was Walter Pearson in one of his sermons said, he has already made a deal with God. He said, God, don't boast on me. Because when God boasts on you, the devil attacks. You remember that Job, you remember how when God said, have you considered my servant Job? All of a sudden the devil attacked him and he lost everything. So Walter Pearson said, God, don't boast on me. The enemy conspired to overthrow. And in his conspiracy, he targeted the leader. The first thing that they did, Sanballat and Geshem, they sent messengers while Nehemiah was working on the wall. They sent messengers to him. Friends came to him with a friendly invitation. Let us meet at this very special place. You know what the name of the place was? It was called Oh No. And that is why the minute he heard that the place was Oh No, he knew right away that God was sending him a message. And he responded to them. He said, Oh no. Oh no, I'm not going to Oh No. Because I know if I go to Oh No, that's not what God wants from me. He said, Oh no. While he was there building the wall, the invitation came. And sometimes you've got to understand how the enemy operates. When you're doing the work of God, he will send you sometimes some offers that you can't refuse. You're doing something for God, but all of a sudden somebody offers you something that seems so pleasant. It looks good. It feels better. It even tastes better. But you must always know what God's will is for your life. If God has set you in a position, let nobody move you. Like a tree that is planted by the waters, I shall not be moved. You know, this scares me. I wonder why sometimes people leave the church because they get upset because people rub them the wrong way. Let me tell you something. You may be going to a place called Oh No, but I tell you one thing. I don't care who you are. There is no man, woman, boy, or girl strong enough that will get me to leave church. Are you kidding me? Am I going to walk away from God because somebody did something to me? Forget you. It's your business. I'm standing with God. If you can't stand beside me, your business. You're going to see me in heaven. What are you going to do up there? You're going to run away? You see, the enemy conspired to overthrow. The second thing the enemy did, and you must know this, the enemy persisted in invitation. 4 times an invitation was sent, which was friendly. The 5th time he sent a letter. You must always remember, the devil doesn't stop the first time. Not just when that young man comes and smiles at you and he shows you his white pearly teeth that he may even have bought, and the sweet smelling cologne that he's wearing. He doesn't just stop one time when he sends you a text message and an email. He will continue. The temptation doesn't just come one time. The devil is persistent. He will attack you left, right, and center. You go to church this Sabbath and somebody rub you the wrong way. Next week, he's going to send somebody else to rub you the wrong way. Then the following week, you do something in church and everybody is going to criticize. Then the next week, you know what he's going to do? He's going to turn even your friends against you. The devil is persistent. It's a mistake for us to think that he will come once and then he will back off. No, the devil never retreats after one time. He will keep trying and trying. If he doesn't get you one way, he will get you with your family. If he can't hit you, he will hurt your son or your daughter. If he can't get you to stop going to church, he will tell your boss to threaten to fire you. He will get you in some way. The devil is persistent. Somebody said he's a sly old fox. If I could catch him, I will lock him in a box. Somebody said lock that box and throw away the key for all those tricks he played on me. The enemy is persistent. But you must understand that Nehemiah was resolute. 5 times they sent messengers to him, and 5 times he said no. He said, I am doing a great work. Now you must understand something. Anything that you're doing for God, if you don't consider it great, then at any moment you will give it up. You notice that Nehemiah never said, I am doing a work. He said, I'm doing a great work. Listen to me, somebody. Whenever you're doing anything for God, it is a great work. It's not an ordinary work. It's an extraordinary work. He said, I'm doing a great work. And as a result of the fact that I'm doing a great work, I can't come down. I don't care how much you entice me. I can't come down, because nothing beneath me is greater than that which is above me. He said, I can't come down. And by the way, you notice something. Whenever someone is calling you from up to come down, that alone should tell you something. Because if you're down there, you have nothing better to offer me if I'm already up here. So you are the Sabbath school superintendent. And somebody's telling you to come join me in doing this because I don't like that teacher. That's coming down. Am I talking to somebody? You are the music coordinator in the church, and somebody is telling you, don't let that person sing. Let me sing every time. That's coming down. Am I talking to somebody? So Nehemiah was building the wall, and he was focused on what he was doing, and Nehemiah was determined. He said, listen, the only time I will move is if somebody who is above me tries to pull me higher, but nobody beneath me is going to pull me down. Nehemiah said, I'm doing a great work and I can't come down. You see, the goal is greater than the glory, because somebody's going to offer you something that may appear to be better than what you have. But just remember, there is no greater work that you could ever do than to do the work of God, for God, and with God. I can't come down. I don't care how much you threaten me. I can't come down. I don't care if you don't invite me to lunch again, but I can't come down. I don't care if you backbite me. I can't come down. I don't care what you say about me. I can't come down. Because I'm doing a great work. Not my work, but I'm doing the work of God. And if I'm working for God, no man in hell is going to pull me down. I'm going to stand firm as long as Jesus is standing with me. I can't come down. Nehemiah was resolute. And you must understand that when you're resolute, determination discombobulates the deceiver. Because when you are determined, his mind is all over the place. He don't understand how you're getting a better offer of a job, but you'll have to work just 1 Sabbath per month. But you refuse it, and you take less money. He don't understand how it is that you have a family, and the rent is due. The bill is on the table, but yet still you take out your check and you write a check to give tithes and offerings. He doesn't understand how it is that you are sick and somebody upset you, but yet still you put on your clothes and you go to church on Sabbath. He doesn't understand how it is that you don't even like how they sing and you don't like how the preacher preaches, but yet still you go to church and you praise the Lord. He doesn't understand. Give the devil a tizzick. Give him heartache, because he doesn't understand how it is that things could be so bad with you, but yet still you wake up in the morning with a smile on your face? How is it that there's no food in the cupboard, but still you say, precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on? He doesn't understand how it is that you're looking at a mountain of bills in front of you, but yet still you get up every day and you said, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise shall continually be in my mouth. He does not understand. And that is why when you go through hardships, when you face challenges, not just people look at you and treat you in such a way, they don't appreciate you. You go for a job and people judge you not by the content of your character, but by the color of your skin. People don't understand how you can still go to church and clap your hands and praise the Lord. They don't understand. But you can't come down. Nehemiah was successful in building the wall. But as great of a builder as he was, he wasn't very successful in building the will of the people. You can build a wall, you can build a church, but you don't necessarily have spiritual people in a church. Somebody once said, just because you walk in a garage doesn't make you a car. It's the same reason just because you walk in the church doesn't make you a Christian. Nehemiah was successful in building the wall like Donald Trump. Well, no, but he built the wall successfully. But as he built that wall, he wasn't successful in building the will of the people. And that shows our humanity. No human being is perfect. The only perfect man to ever walk this earth was Jesus Christ. The wall was built, but the people were still broken. So what do? Do you stop building the wall? No. You keep building. You leave the results to God. It's God's responsibility what he's going to do with the results. You can't take control of the result. Leave that to God. Your job is to stay on the top and build the wall. Let God do the rest. You can't worry about whether or not the class that you're teaching or the song that you're singing or the sermon that you're preaching, whether or not it's going to reach somebody. That's not your business. Just open your mouth and let God use you. God will take the foolishness of preaching and use that to bring somebody to an understanding and acceptance of who he is. So don't come down. Even though you may have cracked when you were singing a song, don't come down. Even though you may be off note, don't come down. Even though you don't dress well, don't come down. Stay up there. Can't come down because you're doing a great work. Martin Luther King, his last sermon before he died, he talked about being on the mountaintop. You remember Martin Luther King, he faced adverse trials and antagonism. People within his ranks berated him privately. His life was constantly threatened. The government sought to destroy him. His dream to him became a nightmare many times. There's a story that I like to relate. It was a story that took place on September 20, 1958. September 20 is my birthday, so I'll never forget. 1958 was not the year I was born. September 20, 1958, Martin Luther King was in New York City. A lady by the name of Isola Curry. When he was there doing one of his book signings, this lady appeared, and a black woman appeared, and she had a gun on her, and she was carrying a letter opener inside of her stomach. And he related the story this way. I can't relate it the way he did, but these are the words that he used. He said, You know, several years ago, I was in New York City autographing the first book that I had written. And while sitting there autographing books, a demented black woman came up. The only question I heard from her was, "Are you Martin Luther King?" And I was looking down writing, and I said, "Yes." And the next minute, I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed by this demented woman. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital. It was a dark Saturday afternoon, and that blade had gone through, and the x-rays revealed that the tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta, the main artery. And once that's punctured, you're drowned in your own blood. That's the end of you. He continued, it came out in the New York Times the next morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. Well, about 4 days later, they allowed me after the operation, after my chest had been opened and the blade had been taken out, to move around in a wheelchair in the hospital. They allowed me to read some of the mail that came in, and from all over the states and the world, kind letters came in. I read a few, but one of them I will never forget. I'd received one from the president and the vice president. I've forgotten what these telegrams said. I'd received a visit and a letter from the governor of New York, but I've forgotten what that letter said. But there was another letter that came from a little girl, a young girl who was a student at the White Plains High School. And I looked at that letter, and I'll never forget it. It said simply, "Dear Dr. King, I'm a 9th grade student at the White Plains High School." And she said, "While it should not matter, I would like to mention that I'm a white girl. I read in the paper of your misfortune and of your suffering, and I read that if you had sneezed, you would have died. And I'm simply writing you to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze." And I went on to say tonight, that's him, that I'm too happy that I didn't sneeze, because if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around in 1960 when the students all over the South started sitting in at lunch counters. And I knew that as they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in the American dream and taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy which were dug deep by the founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and ended segregation in the interstate travel. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1962 when Negroes in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they're going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been here in 1963 when the black people of Birmingham, Alabama aroused the conscience of this nation and brought into being the Civil Rights Bill. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance later that year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been down to Selma, Alabama to see the great movement there. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around those brothers and sisters who were suffering. I'm so happy I didn't sneeze. In that speech, it reminds me and gives me hope that as a people, we can't allow small petty things to cause us to lose track of our goal. Many, if we were Martin Luther King, we would have stopped when we were stabbed. Many would have stopped when they were threatened. But he realized that he had a greater responsibility. He had a greater goal, and he said, "I can't come down." And he continued in that speech, and he said, "And whenever men and women straighten their backs, hear the preacher today. They are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. He said, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind, like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain, and I have looked over. I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. That was his last speech. And then he died. They killed him. But he died on top. They may have taken him out, but they never took him down. He died on top because he knew that he had a great work to do. You know, as I close this sermon, there's somebody else that died on top and never came down. There's a man who was God, whose name is Jesus. Are you with me, somebody? When he came to this earth, and he was mocked and jeered by men, and they roped him up on a cross, and while he was there on the cross with two thieves beside him, one on the right and one on the left, one was telling him, why don't you come down and save yourself? And Jesus at the moment said, I can't come down. Because if I come down, the ceremonial law will still be practiced. I can't come down, because if I come down, then there's no remission without the shedding of blood. I can't come down. I can't come down because I know there's somebody who will be blind like Bartimaeus. I can't come down. Somebody would be dead like Lazarus. I can't come down. Jesus stayed on the cross that Friday afternoon when he was thirsty and he could have come down and go to the fountain of living water. He stayed there and he drank vinegar. He said, I can't come down because I know in Sparks there'll be somebody who would be weeping and mourning. There's somebody who would be hurting. I can't come down. I can't come down because I've come to seek and to save that which was lost. I'm doing a great work. So I can't come down. We get distracted at times by simple things. But the life of Christ was weighing in the balance. But he stayed on the cross because he knew that one jot of his blood would be efficacious for our sins. I can't come down. When he was on the cross, you and I were on his mind. He said, I can't come down because I know my people are weeping and it may be night, but I need them to be able to experience joy that comes in the morning. I can't come down. And so Jesus stayed on the cross. If he can stay on the cross, we can stand a few crosses. If he could stay on the cross, we could put up with a few folk. If he could stay on the cross, we could stand firm in his promises. If he could stay on the cross when he had the cares of this world on his shoulder, when he was said, my God, Lama, Lama Sabachthani, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He could have come down. Not only that, he could have called angels But Jesus recognized that his mission could never be accomplished by angels. It could never be accomplished by man. He had to die. And so he was roped on the cross. He died. He took his last breath. And he said, Tetelestai, it is finished. I can't come down. And so when it was finished, he didn't come down. They took him down. When they took him down, he laid in that tomb, spent Friday, rested on the Sabbath. Then he got up early Sunday morning. He got up that Sunday morning. The stone was rolled away from the grave. As a matter of fact, under inspiration, the stone was found on top of a hill, which meant that it's only miraculous power. Only angels could have lifted that stone up the hill and not roll it down the hill. So man could not have done it. But Jesus got up that Sunday morning. And because he died and he was resurrected, it should be enough for us not to come down. Don't allow petty things to push you to the side. Don't allow the enemy's plots to get to you. Stay on top. Stay building. Keep holding. Stand firm. Don't be discouraged. Everything that happens is just for a moment. It's not forever. Don't allow a temporary situation to cause you to make a permanent mistake. Don't come down. Stay up there. Because guess what? When Jesus was resurrected, he said, I will be with you always, even to the end of the world. So it means, therefore, that when the pressure reaches you, you're not alone. Jesus is with you. So don't come down. Instead of trying to come down, just reach out your hand to him and touch him, because he's always there. Sparks, I can't come down. The work is too great. I can't come down. The glory is waiting. I can't come down because God is depending on me. Nehemiah stayed and he built. Martin Luther King stood firm, and we are still learning from him today. Jesus stayed on the cross, and ultimately, as a result of that, we have salvation. I can't come down. Even though the pressure is mounting, I can't come down. Even though there's heartaches, I can't come down. Don't give up. Hold fast. Hold fast. Hold firm. Don't second grade God. Give God your best. Give him your all. As a songwriter says, give off your best to the master. Give up the strength of your youth. God wants what's right, not what's left. I can't come down because Jesus did not come down. I'm not immune to reality. To know that everybody's challenge is different. What may weaken me and kill me may strengthen somebody else. What it means, therefore, is that we have to be compassionate one to another. Your challenges are not mine. I may never succeed with your challenges. You may never succeed with mine. But one thing I do know is that if you're determined and you're resolute that you will not come down, God will stick with you. He will protect you. He will preserve you. He will never leave you or forsake you. He says when you go through the fire, you will not be burned. When you go through the water, it will never overcome you. when the enemy comes in like a flood, he will lift up a standard against him. You have nothing to fear unless you forget how God has led us in the past. In the life of Nehemiah, in the life of Martin Luther King, in the life of Jesus, I can't come down. And so I'll ask you today to take a stand. Because if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. I'm going to ask you to take a stand today to say, Lord, I may have come down before, but I'm back up. I don't want to come down again. I need you to give me strength to stay focused on the work that you've given me. If you're here today and you want to say to God and shame the devil that the work that you're doing is a great work and you can't come down, stand to your feet as we pray. If Jesus had come down, there would be many blind Bartimaeuses around who would still be blind. If Jesus had come down, there would be many Marys who would still have an issue of blood. If Jesus had come down, there would be many more Judases who would still be a thief. If Jesus had come down, many more widows would still have their son dead. If he had come down, the lame would still have someone to blame. He was placed on the cross by the enemy. He remained resolute. He did not come down. As a result of that, death has a destroyer. Human beings have a Savior. Jesus did not come down. He was taken down. Father, we are flesh, frail, fickle. We are made of folly. We're broken. We're beaten. We're battered. We're bruised. We can't stay up there, not even if our life depends on it. And that is why we come to you and ask you to give us the strength not to come down, to keep building as a church, equipping, empowering, and engaging each other in service. Build us up when the enemy seeks to tear us down. Strengthen us when the enemy seeks to weaken us. Hold us up when others let us down. Give us hope when there's a feeling of despair. Baptize us anew with the power from on high. And oh God, when the trumpet sounds and you choose to come down from heaven to get us, may we be faithful. May we be ready. And may we go home with you. Lord, bless those who have stood today in the face of the onslaught of the enemy. They have stood. They're taking a stand. And I pray now, Father, that you may etch their names in glory. Give us vision, lest we perish. Save us. Save us now. In Jesus' name, amen. Please remain standing. May I offer an apology for keeping you late? I just love